we think sales can be done more effectively if you're talking to somebody when they're ready to talk to the salesperson. And rather than wasting a ton of time and effort, both on the salesperson side, sending cold emails that, maybe someone doesn't want to get, and then on the potential buyer side, receiving messages that you're not ready to receive.
Welcome to UpTech Report. This is our Applied Tech series. UpTech Report is sponsored by Terraleap. Learn how to leverage the power of video at terraleap.io. Today, I'm excited to be joined by my guest, Tim Geisenheimer, who's based in Brooklyn, New York. He's the CEO and co-founder at Correlated. Welcome, Tim. Good to have you on.
Hey, nice to see you.
Now, Correlated is a product-led revenue platform. So you're focused on helping SaaS companies that are product-led, product-focused in their growth. Help me understand, let's just start with what's the problem that you see that SaaS companies are having in this space?
Yeah, it's a great question. Appreciate you having me on. So, essentially what we're seeing is that there's this huge shift in how SaaS companies sort of monetize and release and distribute their products. And so the big shift is away from kind of a traditional enterprise software approach of having someone sign up on the website for a webinar or a demo, and then waiting to talk to a salesperson to even get hopefully a look at the product and what it looks like over a webinar or in person as it used to be. Today, what's happening is that many companies are releasing their software as a self-service version. So you can just sign up on the website, immediately get into that piece of software, decide as an individual if it's providing value to you, and then eventually decide if it's useful to you as a team or in your company. And so this sort of approach to distribution and actually monetization has sort of led to a number of sort of opportunities and massive growth for a lot of public software companies and private software companies, but it's also led to problems for the go-to-market teams that are at those companies. And so the biggest problems are who should we be talking to of all these free users that are using our product to actually have a sales conversation with? Is there anyone here that we should be talking to? Or how many of these are worth spending time on? So that's one. And then the next is, of all the existing customers that are using our product, which ones are ready to spend more with us? There are probably some subset that are going to expand their revenue with us. We know that some will do that, but which ones are going to be the ones that expand? And then which one should sales spend time on, focused on from expansion?
So you've identified the growth in product-led focus, but what you're trying to do is realize it's not just product by itself. Can be a sales component. So it's almost like a product-led sales enabled, and it's just finding who of our free users do we need to talk to. Now, your background, we'll come back again to your solution, how you guys are doing it. I'm curious again, this trajectory, how you got to this point. Your background is a salesperson, right? Like you work at a lot of different companies, even at Twitter, right? Mobile sales, that right? Back in 2014. So take me back of like, are you just a salesperson? Is that your core?
Yeah, I've spent great question. I've spent my whole career doing sales in various different forms, and started very beginning of my career as an individual sort of inside salesperson, kind of doing cold calling and trying to drum up business for advertising sales actually.
And was that CBS Interactive?
Yeah, and it was actually a company called CNET Networks, which was a public company at the time that CBS ended up acquiring while I was there. And so really kind of learned the art and craft of sales while I was there. And then made a sort of transition into startups and still was in the sort of ad technology space, and ended up joining Twitter through an acquisition. So I was on the founding team and ran a sales team at a company called Tap Commerce that was acquired by Twitter, and ended up running sort of a large sales team within Twitter. And so this was still in sort of more of the advertising and marketing technology space. But after I left there, I ended up joining this company called Timescale. And that was actually where I saw this problem that I just described, in big detail. And it was basically, Timescale has this open source database product and then a cloud service that they offer. And the open source product is free. So they had thousands of users coming in. It was kind of my job to say, hey, which of these users worth talking to, and where should we be spending our time? And so that's where I really saw Yeah.
facing that challenge. You're like, who do I talk to? And you realize that was an issue. Now, there's a few other things I guess happened in between that and correlated. But I also noticed you had another company that you founded, a Newco. So this isn't your first venture to try to start. What was Newco though?
Yeah, so I think I've been fascinated by sort of enabling sales teams and salespeople. For my a lot of my career, I've been as a practitioner running sales teams or even individual contributor, trying to put the best tools at my disposal to be successful individually or as a team. And so always very curious about how to make sales teams selling B2B products as successful as they can be. And so when I left Twitter, I actually founded a company to do transcription of meetings and calls over web conferencing. And it was 2016 when I did that, so it was pretty good timing. But I ended up not pursuing it as much as I probably should have, because you might have heard of some companies like Gong or Chorus who started around the same time and were quite successful. So kind of had the same idea. How can we get information out of these meetings that salespeople have all the time? Is there a way to do that? And so I was kind of noodling on that idea before I ended up not pursuing it.
Gotcha. So fast forward up again, you're part of a venture fund, it sounds like, and then CEO for Facet. This is 2019. Correlated got started in 2020, right? Last year. The recording today is October 1st, 2021. But a year ago, you have two co-founders, so there's three of you. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
So you, John, and Diana.
Yep.
How did you guys meet? Did you just like one day you were already friends and you're like, let's solve this problem?
Yeah, so Diana and I worked together at Timescale. So we'd actually kind of seen this problem while we were there. She was the first product manager at Timescale, and I was running the sales and partnership side. And so when we faced the problem at Timescale, and I'll go into the solution, like you said, in a minute, but we had kind of built an in-house version of what we're now doing at Correlated at Timescale. So like it was very manual. It was not productized, but we had kind of worked together and collaborated to try and solve this problem while we were there. And then John and I actually overlapped at Twitter. So we got to know each other, many years back. And then we were together at this other startup, Facet. And then, talked to Diana. Kind of the three of us were meeting up and decided that it was such a great opportunity. We had to join forces and go after it.
So you raise a nice round, right? And to get started last year. I guess the first little while was building it, developing it. What was that? The process pretty straightforward?
Well, I mean, I think my approach and now, as you've seen, kind of been a part of or done, a number of different technology startups. And so I think the approach that, I typically like to take is before committing a line of code, try and really have a good understanding of the problem. And so we did have that from Timescale, but we also talked to around 200 different people in sales teams at B2B software companies to really have a better understanding of what were the problems they were facing, how are they addressing those problems today, what were some of the tools or processes that they had in place to solve the problem. And then as we got sort of better feel for sort of where the opportunity existed to build based on those conversations, that's when we started to really put pen to paper, as it were, on the product and start to build in earnest over the course of this last year.
All right, so let's come to the product itself. You see the challenge. There's lots of free leads. How are you then solving this challenge of knowing who is the right person?
Yeah, so basically, our feeling and talking to those hundreds of sales teams and our own intuition and kind of experience the problem ourselves has led us to sort of the best way to do this is to understand a few different things. First, sort of the more traditional aspects of sort of sales qualification. Does this company, are they in the Fortune 500? Are they in, your ICP or ideal customer profile? So do they have kind of attributes that lead to them being kind of good for you and your business? So that's going to be more things that you might have in a traditional CRM like Salesforce or HubSpot, things like total employees, the industry they're in, the region they're in. So those types of characteristics. And then where we come in is we also bring, in addition to what you have in your CRM, product usage data. So we connect to our customer systems where they're collecting that data. We're able to combine sort of that information around their customers that might be in their CRM with how those customers are using their products. And so that combined set of information we call signals, which we can then allow sales teams to take action off of when customers perform certain key behaviors in their product. And they also are, in their ideal customer profile. That's when we say, hey, this is someone worth talking to. And here's why.
Because if you look at either one of those sets, your CRM or your product usage, by themselves, it may not help you, I guess, because like CRM, you could have a very big list of all these free users that fit your ideal profile. On the product side, you could have lots of signals of people using the product, but what you've done is mix the two, so the people who fit your profile and are taking action and give you
exactly right. I mean, you could have some, a couple people at Tesla, in your product, and Tesla, big company, they might be a great fit for us. But if they're not engaged in a way that indicates they're ready to talk to sales, if they're not sort of getting to value or performing certain other actions in the product, then they might not even be ready to have a sales conversation. And then alternatively, you could have people who might be really engaged, but they might be more of like take Zoom. We're on Zoom, for example. That could be my mom who's on Zoom. She uses it a lot to stay in touch with her friends. That might not be the right person to have a sales conversation with if you're a salesperson at Zoom, even if they're really engaged with the product. So you kind of need those two things put together.
That product usage insights, is there like a standard out there that you're able to just pull that data out? How are you making that work?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. I mean, there are certain companies that have existed for a while that help SaaS companies collect that data and send it in different places. So one example would be a product called Segment. So Segment, which was recently acquired by Twilio, basically they offer a product where you can start tracking data in your product usage data in your product, and then send that out to hundreds of different tools that Segment's connected to. And so we are one of those tools that Segment's connected to, and so many of our customers use that.
So it would kind of require them to already have that set up and have that data coming through. Same with the CRM. I imagine you probably already integrate with all the major CRMs that one.
That's right. Yeah. So we ask that our customers have some level of tracking and sort of product usage data metrics already in place, whether it's through Segment. There are a few other tools that we support. We're adding support for more every day as well. But we assume and to make our product most successful, we assume that you have some level of tracking already in place.
You eat your own dog food? Are you?
Of course we do. Yeah, I mean,
I would imagine.
That's part of the fun part. We do eat our own dog food, and I would say part of where it's really awesome to see the value in our product is being able to kind of see how people are using it, and then to reach out to them at the right time and when it makes sense. And so that's part of our our mission and values as a company, as a product. Like we think sales can be done more effectively if you're talking to somebody when they're ready to talk to the salesperson. And rather than wasting a ton of time and effort, both on the salesperson side, sending cold emails that maybe someone doesn't want to get, and then on the potential buyer side, receiving messages that you're not ready to receive, we're trying to make sure people are sending the right messages if they're salespeople, and that buyers are receiving the right messages when they're ready to buy. So we're definitely dog fooding it and trying to do our best to make sure we're doing that.
Got it. The when you think of the sales folks that you've trained, you've been, and could be using this tool, I'm just curious though, from your own history, any tips or tactics that have worked well? Like you're doing that initial outreach, right? You get the right signals. Let's just talk tactics for a second. What's a good way to make that sale happen?
I mean, I think before even you get in touch with somebody, the best way to do it, in my mind, is to personalize the message and try to, explain why you're reaching out and why whatever you're reaching out about is solving a problem that they have. And so, that entails a little bit of upfront research on the part of the salesperson to say, to know, is this person I'm reaching out to, do they have the problem that I can solve through my solution? And, have I done the necessary homework to make sure I'm reaching out to the right person that has that problem with a message that is likely to resonate with them? And if you've done kind of that legwork on the sales side, then you have a much better chance of getting someone to talk to you, and then ultimately having the process be successful because you have like sort of qualified that person and done some of the important work to know that they're kind of ready to be in market for your solution. So I think that type of preparation is what I've tried to train any salespeople that have worked for me to do, and that I think is maybe the most important thing to being successful at sales.
When folks are looking at your type of technology, it's like, what are they using prior to you? Anything? Like, what's the alternative before they would explore
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, what we typically see is like the exact same situation that that we saw at Timescale, which is, some manual spreadsheets and, work to pull different data sources together, and, quite cumbersome and a lot of work. And so oftentimes, if it's happening at all, it's happening on a irregular cadence, every, couple weeks or month, something like that. A salesperson will get a CSV or Excel file handed to them saying, hey, here's some like great accounts to go after. And by then maybe it's stale. And so, there are definitely some companies that have, a bit more level of maturity than that and a bit more sophistication than that. But by and large, it's some mix of different in-house or manual processes that exist today that we're going against. And then, that makes it very compelling when we talk to people who have this problem, because they're trying to solve it in somewhat of a sort of manual and painful way, and we come in and are kind of saving the day a bit with our solution.
What are you excited about coming up, like on your roadmap, what you guys are building and developing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have an opportunity to be a really important piece of the sort of software stack for sales teams at these modern software companies. And I think even if you look at things like Salesforce or HubSpot or other tools that are kind of ingrained into modern sales teams, they're fundamentally not solving this problem. And I think we have a chance to kind of be this system that really sales teams use every day to get a ton of value and drive their business forward. And so we're already seeing that with many of our customers today. The value is quite clear, which is exciting. And so I think looking ahead over the next few years, we have a chance to really make a dent, make an impact.
Make a prediction for me. Looking at sales technology, sales automation, what do you see coming up 5 years from now? Any fandangled cool new tech that we can foresee happening?
Well, I'd like to think we would be in the vanguard of that. But yeah, I mean, I think the direction things are going, and we're at least we'd like to lead it, is imagine you're a salesperson and you can have an extremely easy way to understand who exactly you should talk to. You wake up in the morning, which 10 or 20 messages should I send, or the types of action should I take that are most likely to lead to converting deals that matter, that are kind of in my sort of sphere of influence or pipeline or whatever it might be. And what is the exact message I should use? Who is the exact person I should talk to? And what is the format that I should use to reach out to them? I think if you can wake up as a salesperson and be armed with that in 3 to 5 years, your life is going to be tremendously simpler, and you're going to be able to scale your own efforts to a much greater degree. So that's what I think would be possible in a few years.
Now you're just about a little over a year into this, and it may be too soon to answer this question, but I'll ask it anyways. Of like, what do you know now that you wish you knew a year ago that you could go back and tell yourself? Is there any like major ahas or learning so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we started out, we thought that maybe our solution, would be a better fit for different teams than purely sales. So there's also the customer success function. We thought maybe customer success would be the type of team that would really benefit from our product. And so we spent a decent amount of time investigating that that team and that kind of buyer and what problems they had, and ultimately realized that sales was really the best fit for what we're doing. So if you had if I was able to go back in time and say, hey, that was maybe a little bit of a waste of effort, fast forward a bit to sales, then I might have enjoyed that tip off.
That's the challenge, I imagine. As a leader, it's like, how do you decide where to pour your energy, where to test properly? I mean,
Yeah, well, listen, I think that's a core part of startups and technology startups in particular is you might have a set of hypotheses, a set of assumptions that you think make sense, but then you have to test those by talking to people and saying, hey, will you buy this solution? Will is this actually solving a problem for you? And if so, how? And that's that's a continuous process that never ends, and we obviously still do that today. So I think that's a big part of doing a startup.
it's that knowledge only through the working of it doesn't happen. For you as a leader now, this your second company that you've run, but as a sales leader, any books that you've read or audiobooks that you listen to that you get great insight and would recommend?
Um, a couple that I have read in the last couple of years that I think are pretty great. And they get mentioned a lot, so you're not necessarily unique, but Shoe Dog, the story of Nike was really good. And then I recently read Who is Michael Ovitz about the history of Michael Ovitz, he founded the talent agency in Hollywood and then was executive at Disney for many years. So really interesting story of sort of two leaders that were at the top of their game in different industries than tech, but very obviously very influential business people.
As a leader, it's like you're always learning, always getting, and we have a lot of business leaders that listen to this. So I always like to be able to get these different perspectives. I'm curious, is there any um, constructive criticisms that you've received recently that you heard and you're working on? Because we're always improving. We're always working on. I'm just curious if any come to mind that you're like, oh yeah, that's something I need to be working on.
I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges of running a growing company is figuring out what processes need to be changed and fixed, and like how to effectively manage and run your company and your team. And I think that feedback that I've received is that oftentimes it can be hard to figure out whether or not people are doing a good job based on me telling them. So I think being a little bit more upfront on providing actionable feedback to my team and whether or not the processes that we have in place are successful or not is something that I take to heart. And so yeah, I think it's a constant challenge, and making sure you're communicating, especially in this remote world that we're now working in, can be very challenging. So that's sort of what I would say to that.
Communicating, yeah, effectively across everything, but definitely like success. Are they meeting your metrics, or that you follow in the processes? In previous ventures, were they remote as well, or are you used to working in a all together? Because you're always based in New York, so I imagine like we're just always in an office together.
So this is the first company that I've done that's been remote. So it's
Hey.
definitely a learning opportunity for me. We do have a good number of team members here in New York, and we do have an office. So we have people that come in a few times a week, but there's not a requirement to be in the office to work here.
Yeah.
Even if you're in New York, you don't have to. There's not like a hard requirement to come in. And we may sort of experiment more with hybrid over the course of the next couple of years, year to 18 months, whatever it might be. But for the most part, we've had a lot of success being remote and building the team remotely.
Got it. Just fun question. Any personal or work apps and solutions that you like, and you're like simple ones, not really big ones, just simple ones that you can think of that have helped you?
Well, in keeping with the sales theme, I find myself sending a ton of messages to people, whether it's in a sales context or recruiting context or whatever the case may be. And so because I'm sending the same message somewhat frequently, instead of having to type it out, there's actually this Chrome extension called Text Blaze, a funny name, but great product. And what it allows you to do is do a backslash and then a little like one word or letters, and then it will fill in the text that relates to that. And so you can just automate, the messages you want to send, whether it's on LinkedIn or email or wherever you are. You can just fill in, the fully templatized email or message you want to send. So pretty useful. I use it a lot every day.
I love that, and especially when you can just do it in no matter what app or website.
Yeah, it's on Chrome, so whatever is in your browser, you can do it in.
We'll have to check that out. Well, this has been fabulous, Tim, to be able to hear the problem that you've seen already years ago, and now have set out to solve, the journey that you guys are on, and the future that you're painting. For those that want to learn more, I know we do have a lot of different SaaS leaders. You can go to getcorrelated.com. That's getcorrelated.com, and be able to, of course, it's a product led, so you can be able to get in there, start clicking buttons. And if you click too many buttons, they'll probably call you, I guess. Yeah.
We'll probably call you no matter what, just to make sure you're being successful. But yeah, just come on in and you can get started.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tim. I appreciate having you on.
All right. Thanks, Alexander. Appreciate it.
And we'll see you all on the next episode of UpTech Report. Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.